I should start this video by saying that I like to make weird things. I don't know where it started. I will see something weird or quirky online or in someone's house, and I will just try to make it myself. So it started with giant food. That's just a fun little hobby. And then I made that sheep because I saw that in a bunch of designers' houses. These are just trophies that I picked up at the thrift store. So I guess that's not super weird per se, but I tried to make them colorful. And yeah, like now I have trophies on my mantle. And then I saw some old-timey wooden toys, so I decided to make that. I don't have any rhyme or reason for it. Oh yeah, I also made giant birth control pills because I was so aggravated by things that were happening to just women's health care, and that was my little Rage Against the Machine project. I kind of love old-timey things, so I painted a phone. I found that globe, so I painted that. So I guess sometimes the projects themselves are kind of weird, and sometimes I like to find kind of weird things and make them look cute and colorful so I can put them in my house. Which brings me to this project today. I've seen a few of my friends posting these big floppy kind of whimsical hand pillows. Pause this video and go over to Google and look up hand pillows. You're gonna see lots of different versions. And I was all set to just buy one, but it was like, I don't know, $100 on Etsy. And you were sort of limited by whatever fabric the artist had picked. And I wanted a challenge. I also sort of wanted to have exactly the colors I wanted. And in my mind, I thought it might be fun to bring in some other accessories, rings, nail polish, all sorts of kind of things that were not on the pillows I was seeing online. So I got some old fabric and here we are. I started by tracing my hand, and I'm gonna preface this by saying what you are watching is actually not what I ended up going with. I'm gonna give you the benefit of future Charlotte. That hand right there, the fingers are too close together, and I realized it right about now. Did I stop and start again? Nope, I just went ahead, so I wasted some fabric. But because the fingers are so close together here, I didn't have enough perimeter around it to give myself a seam allowance. So just keep in mind, the one that actually worked for me, I spread out my fingers a little bit differently. To get you up to speed, I traced my hand, and then I did my favorite kind of grid transfer method to basically blow up the hand so that it was like 10 times bigger than my actual one. I traced that onto, that's just a paper bag that I glued together. And then what you saw just a second ago were the fingernails that I cut out, also out of that paper bag. Here I am tracing the hand onto the fabric. Again, I ended up fixing this hand and doing this whole thing again with my fingers spread wider apart, but I didn't feel like refilming everything because you guys are really smart and you understand what I'm saying. I taped the template onto the fabric. Every time I do a sewing project, I tell myself I need to get those little clippy things. It wouldn't have helped right here, but when I go to sew them, those clippy things are easier than the sewing pins that I still use because I'm old and that's how I was taught. I put the hand onto the back of the fabric and I just cut around it. I think I gave myself like 3/4 of an inch to an inch for a seam allowance. And again, you can see I do not have enough space to get around all the fingers on this version, but I promise you the next version, I figured it out and I did the same thing and I had enough fabric. Then I flipped over the hand and I cut it out again so that I would have the top and the bottom of the pillow. So that's what you see me doing here. I almost made the mistake of putting the hand the same way down, but obviously you want to make sure that the right side of the fabric is going to be on the top of the hand and the bottom of the hand. And yeah, I know that is sewing 101, but I'm just telling you, I almost made the mistake. Thankfully, I didn't. This fabric is sort of fussy, but it is so beautiful. I don't know that it would have worked for anything other than pillows, maybe drapes, but I only got a yard or two, so this pillow was perfect. And that is some leftover velvet. You see me tracing out all the fingernails that I eyeballed based on sort of the sketch that I made on my paper bag hand. And then I'm just cutting all of these out. I made sure to mark on the back of each fingernail which finger they went to, just because there was a little bit of a difference in the size. Do you guys remember tracing your hands when you were little and then just spending hours like coloring in the fingers and giving them beautiful fingernail polish and adding rings and bracelets and watches? I don't know, I remember doing that all the time in school if I had like an indoor recess or 20 minutes to spare. So something about tracing a hand, it brought me back. So there you can see the fingernails. I love the way that sort of chartreuse velvet matches the fanciness of the brocade. And I'm using a pretty similar thread color, so a chartreuse, like a limey green. And then I just sewed the velvet right on top of the finger using a zigzag stitch. You could definitely have fun with this. You could use a different color thread. You could probably hand stitch it. This felt like an easy way to do it, and because I'm using that velvet, it doesn't fray really at all, and this was pretty quick and easy. So that's what I went with. There's also a lot going on in the fabric, so I don't know that it needed a contrasting stitch around each fingernail, but I'm tempted to do this again because I love myself a collection, and I feel like it would be fun to really play up some of the different accessories. You'll see that I didn't add a ton to this hand, but just stay tuned. So here I am again. This is my original version, and I'm already beginning to realize when I turn it inside out that there's places where I just didn't stitch quite right. I had to come so close to the edge of the fabric that there's places where there are little gaps and little holes. So this is sort of the moment when I realized that I was gonna have to start again. I went ahead and stuffed it just in case you couldn't notice the holes. Sometimes when I do projects like this, if it's like good enough for me, I'm just gonna do it because you're not gonna see some of these things on camera. But there were definitely holes and it felt a little sloppy and I just couldn't do it. So you can see me stuffing, and thankfully I edited my face out of it because my face was not happy. Okay, we're gonna take like an emotional lap, we're gonna take a break, and we are back at it. This feels better. You can see that I could probably stand to have more, but I think I have enough. So now I'm gonna turn it inside out and see how she looks. Thankfully, I had enough fabric, so I did literally the same thing. Again, I just opened my fingers wider. I had plenty of seam allowance. I'm so much happier with this version. So now it's time to turn it inside out and to stuff it. I'm just using polyfill. I actually think I pulled this out of couch cushions a little while ago. I don't know, when I was recording this part looked so dirty, but maybe my mind was in the gutter. Yeah, like right there. I don't know, it doesn't look as bad when I watch it back, but yeah, stuffing that fill into all of the fingers, it felt like maybe not suitable for web, if you know what I mean. And here she is. Did I forget to film the part where I glued a little bit of trim that I had in my stash onto the finger as a ring? Yeah, of course I did. I just used a flexible fabric glue, and then I also happened to have some of that ball fringe, and so when I was sealing up the end of the pillow after I stuffed it, I just stuck some of that ball fringe on it, and I don't know, is it weird? Totally. Do I love it? Yes. So this now lives in my living room, which nobody uses, which is why it looks neat and clean. So thanks so much for watching. Go make something weird.